I don't know what Steve Gabrey was doing up in his room or the studio or wherever he was at when he was absolutely devouring this track, but this is what I visualize when I think about it. My guy ate and left no crumbs, and instead, he made the hairs on my back stand up every time I hear this. Okay, Sally Face. Oh man, Sally Face. Alright, I found this game through a YouTuber I was pretty fond of back in high school. This game was released August 16th of 2016. I played it maybe a couple years after this date, just episode 1 though, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But it wasn't until later on that I continued my playthrough, and you guys, I cannot get enough of Sally Face. I've played this game annually every year it's been out, and I can honestly say something always clicks that never did in the past, or I have more aha moments than I did the previous time I played, and it just excites me so much that I have to share that here on this channel. You may be asking, what even is Sally Face? It's an indie psychological horror game about a boy with a prosthetic face who investigates these murders with his friends inside of their apartments, and so much more. This game is dark and kind of heavy, so if you're not into that kind of thing, then it may not be for you. In this video, I will absolutely be spoiling the game through my playthrough, summarizing these episodes to the best of my ability, and breaking down all the things I've noticed and picked up on throughout my years of playing. And of course, sharing my review. This game is one of my favorite indie horror games ever. Steve Gabrey, thank you for dropping such a gem, and let's jump into this. Okay, immediately, Sally is clearly very injured here. Well, that seems like a bit of an understatement, but okay, I'm just gonna walk over here and hit the lights. Oh, and then there was light. And a cute little dog photo. Random person on the phone tells us everything's gonna be okay. As I walk further through, I find a key that I can use to escape this room. Outside, you're met with a series of doors with letters on them. I went through the doors, D-O-G. Interesting how that spells dog. Crazy how we're already dropping in hot boys. Through the last door, there seems to be a burial happening or some kind of a meeting. I'm not sure, but I do know that there's a number on the tree, and Sal is now talking to a dog. The dog tells Sal that he buried her alive. Sal can't make sense of anything at this moment, but he goes to find out for himself and sees the tombstone of his deceased mother. There are a few numbers in different areas of the game that eventually will be used for something, I just don't know what. I could never figure it out. Sal continues to walk into what looks like the apartments everything took place in. Sal's dad doesn't claim him and explains that his son is not a murderer. Then he disappears. This is your fault, the message says. At the end of the hall, he sees his mother and then wakes up. That was a super symbolic dream and lays the foundation of the entire game. In the present, Sally speaks with Dr. Enon, who doesn't seem all that intrigued by Sally's dream. Instead, he wants to know more about the body. Sal explains further. Him and his dad move into Addison Apartments, where Sal has a weird feeling about the place instantly. Episode 1, Strange Neighbors, opens with Sal and his dad trying to start a new life, leaving the old ones behind after what happened. We also learn that the dad takes sleeping pills for obvious reasons as he navigates through the death of his wife. Sally explores the apartment and meets a cop who isn't very kind. He eventually learns that the cops are investigating a murder. By default, Sally is curious. But this isn't the average curiosity killed the cat story. It's way deeper than that. Sal heads into room 504 and sees a recurring character in the game who says some kinda weird stuff. Later, Sal meets Lisa, who's super sweet and nurturing. She encourages Sal to make friends with her son, Larry, and they form an unbreakable bond. Sally also meets a rather strange guy named Charlie, who's a collector, like myself. But he has an unhealthy obsession with glitter ponies, hence the blood on one of them. Listen, Sal is just trying to get information on the stuff going on in the apartment, if there's any. He asks if a murder is being investigated and is told, I can't talk about that. Well, we know the answer to that. I'm gonna go talk to Larry. Upon entering his room, on the wall there are these pictures of Sally's dream. Art painted by Larry that seemingly connects these two characters without them even knowing anything about each other yet. It's actually not even touched on in the game, almost like Sally doesn't even notice it. Larry tells Sal that he saw the murder happen and knows it was Charlie, but we obviously can't do anything with this information without evidence. So, we go and gather more information, meet the landlord, Mr. Addison, who sells tea, basically drug Charlie, take the bloody pony, and rat him out. Charlie spends years behind bars for the murder of the tenant Mrs. Sanderson, who also loved these glitter ponies, and obtained some rare edition that was apparently worth killing over. Back to the present. Dr. Enon asked further questions about how Sally was feeling regarding this, given the new evidence that came out finding Charlie innocent. But Sally knows the truth, and he knows that the murder was covered up by the cult. Yes, the cult. Now, Sally doesn't mention the cult here because it'd be too unbelievable. But what makes this interesting is that Dr. Enon says to Sally that he doesn't think he's a murderer. Even though he's got blood on his hands and is literally about to go on trial, you might be the only one. Episode 2, The Wretched, opens with another dream, it seems. Sal, before his injury, asks his alive mother to go and pet the dog. He walks through the wooded area where you can see a dog behind the trees just before the screen switches to a now bloody-faced Sally. He walks to the ambulance where it looks like a major accident occurred. With this information, it can be concluded that Sally was severely injured by the dog he pet, and in a way, explains how he ended up with a prosthetic face. Here we go into the toilet to help Mrs. Sanderson with her clog, and inside of it there is an inflated, malnourished version of the glitter pony that's caused this murder, begging for water. Please, please, give me some water, bro, please, bro, I'm dying in his home. Well, it seems as though it was able to pass on. After the toilet's been unclogged, the scream of Mrs. Sanderson is heard, and the glitter pony that was once on her couch stand is gone, along with her life. Also, there's another number on her couch pillow. Sal continues his walk through this dream, and a zipped up version of Charlie appears and confronts Sal about his betrayal to him. And then he splits open to the red-eyed demon. Sal wakes up. In his conversation with Larry, we learn that Sally thinks the apartments are haunted, but Larry isn't quite having this same experience. Although something does make him want to show Sal his treehouse, where he tells him at some point his dad just disappeared. Jim Johnson was a very loving husband and father. He would have never abandoned his family, but at some point, he was just gone, leaving everything behind, including his family. I want you guys to pay attention to the hexagon that's hung in this treehouse and just keep it in your back pocket. Just keep it there. I also want to take a moment to share that there's an unreal amount of symbolism in this game that can be easily missed. And even now, I may not highlight everything there is to notice. Larry feels like he's cursed due to an accident that happened when he was younger, and believes that as part of his punishment, his father was taken away by some red-eyed demon. Sound familiar? In the treehouse, Sal finds a puzzle box in the shape of a hexagon with a missing piece, and he keeps it for later. In this episode, Sal tries to convince Larry and his other friends that the apartments are haunted, so they build onto the Gear Boy, basically a Game Boy, making it a Super Gear Boy that picks up supernatural activity in the hopes of communicating with the people who've passed on in this apartment and figuring out what's really wrong with this place. After the modifications are made, Sal and his nerdy friend Todd are able to summon the ghost of Greg, a man who had an affair with a married woman and was killed by the husband, as he sits on the toilet and cries. Greg mentions to Sal that they, including himself and the other residents who have died in the apartments, can never pass on. This situation leaves Todd in a bit of shock. One thing I noticed this time around during my playthrough is that whenever a supernatural encounter happens, the numbers that appear in the upper left corner on the Gear Boy indicate a chapter that's been unlocked that you can actually play, so you can gain more insight into select characters and the activities of the cult known as the Devourers of God. Miss Rosenberg is a really old resident of the apartments who rambles on and on about time and regret and death and voids. But through her ramble, she drops many gems. She mentions how the landlord of the apartments, Terrence Addison, actually is the last of his family line, and mentions that he never leaves his room. And lastly, using the Gear Boy on her, she's seen as a ghost, or a demon, or whatever. Something other than a human. After further exploration, Sal finds himself in the treehouse, able to communicate with the phantom of Jim Johnson, Larry's dad. What's shown is unintelligible, but he basically tells him to remember a red ball and not to be afraid of dying. This is a clear, well, unclear foreshadow of Sally's inevitable death. After this, I went on to play more chapters on the Gear Boy. You know, playing games inside of a game. So after going to check in with Todd, it's learned that reports of past murders can't be found, and the only one that comes up is old boy Charlie from episode 1. The confusion is that the picture on the public records doesn't depict Charlie at all. What makes this even worse is that there's not a trace of any other officers who were there the day Mrs. Sanderson was killed, as if they weren't there at all or don't exist. Todd also finds a connection to Greg, toilet guy, through a case regarding the cheating wife Stacy and her daughter Megan having drowned at a lake one day. Sal and Larry are able to summon Megan with her necklace that seems to be an indicator of a cult association. What she tells them gives us some information about her parents. Her father didn't like Greg for reasons we already know, but unbeknownst to Megan. All she knows is that he was nice and always brought her candy. She mentions that she never even went fishing at a lake during her last days, indicating that her and her mother's deaths were also covered up. She also touches on the other side, where she and other ghosts reside, and that her dad doesn't like it when she talks to other people, possibly because her dad is a member of the cult. All she knows is that her dad, Luke, and Larry's dad, Jim Johnson, used to fish together and nothing more. Larry is disappointed by this and believes that since there's no curse, then his dad really did just leave. To wrap up this episode, Dr. Enon and Sal run out of time for their session, and it's right before Sal's trial. The doctor doesn't believe Sal, but it almost feels like a piece of him does, so much that he takes Sal's advice and goes to the treehouse himself. The ghost of Larry appears. Yes, the ghost. Tear. He tells Dr. Enon that Sal needs his help now that he's seen the truth, but unfortunately, seeing his ghost was too much for him, and he falls out of the treehouse. Well, there's no coming back from that. I don't really get this part. I'm sure it's important to the story, but there's talk about a beast here. And with that, Sal's trial has begun. The journalists ask him a bunch of questions. Sal mentions that he's got nothing to hide and will only tell the truth. The journalists ask him, if that's the case, then how can he explain the no witnesses or evidence of the one who murdered his mother? While we're at it, let's go ahead and tie that into the doing of the cult as well. The most asked question by the public is whether or not Sally is granted special meal privileges because he's afraid of bologna. And that brings me to episode 3, the bologna incident. Alright, things are about to get weird. I mean, we're talking cafeteria bologna mystery levels weird. Who knew school lunch could be a gateway to horror? So here's the scoop. Sal and his buddies, Larry, Ash, and Todd, start noticing that their classmates are acting off. Like, really weird. The common denominator? Those suspiciously stinky bologna sandwiches. Naturally, our curious hero Sal smells something fishy, or in this case, something meaty, or even crappy. The gang decides to investigate because what's a little breaking and entering when cafeteria food is clearly a threat to humanity? I mean, come on. So they sneak into Mrs. Packerton's, their teacher's apartment, and I feel a mix of fear and teenage determination. What do they find? Oh, just a hidden room straight out of a horror movie, complete with creepy machines, occult vibes, and 0 health inspections. Y'all, she had her husband tied to a form of life support I've never seen. Dookie diapers everywhere. I don't know if this was the right thing to do, but I pulled the plug. I don't know why she was keeping him in there in the first place. Turns out the bologna might not even be meat. Like, I'm officially vegetarian after playing this. Ash joins us eventually and finds herself falling down a chute, but not one for trash. This chute led straight into the cult of what is called the Devourers of God. That's right. I really felt that this episode changed the trajectory of the game and paved the way for the greater darkness that ensues in the coming episodes. This isn't just about gross school lunches. It ties into the game's larger supernatural storyline. Cults, dark rituals, and mysteries that'll have you side-eyeing your own fridge. The bologna incident is the perfect blend of dark humor, unsettling revelation, and that classic Sally face term that I just love. Oh, bon appetit. The next day, the teacher was killed in a car accident, even though Larry and some of Sal's other friends were talking about taking her out. Obviously, this didn't happen, but the journalist believes this is quite convenient. This news was aired in the town paper, but of course nothing was found on the bodies and such inside her apartment because it was covered up too. Todd, being messed up, or should I say likely possessed from the night everything happened, has since been admitted into an asylum. Jump scare, ah! I wanted to mention something that stood out to me in this episode, and it's Travis just casually, almost enjoyingly eating lunch with a bunch of Cultist cards, letters, or what have you next to him, all out in the open. It's been pretty easy for me to miss this after all these years. But it's just one of those things that I feel like stands out so much more after playing the game more than once. Or twice. Their classmate Travis, who clearly has some home problems and hates Sal for whatever reason, just has to be connected to the cult. Otherwise, this doesn't make sense. Mans is out here trying to recruit. I also love the puzzles in this episode too. I'm not too fond of puzzles generally speaking, but they're done in a way here that just makes sense to what needs to be done. What makes episode 4 so gripping is how it weaves together mystery, horror, and deeply emotional moments. Our boy Sal is on trial for murder. He's accused of killing everyone in the Addison apartment. It's a total wait. Sal would never moment. But as the trial unfolds, we're taken through a series of flashbacks that reveal how everything went wrong. By this point, Sal is a little older and has moved out now. He meets up with Larry, who's actually his brother now, since their parents married each other. Aw. On the way back to the apartments, you can see the Phelps Ministry and its establishment year. Just for context, Travis's last name is Phelps. Yes, Travis. Blondie, who is sitting next to cult cards. Sal, Larry, and their friends had been investigating the cult that's been causing chaos in Knoxville. Turns out, this cult wasn't just your average creepy secret society. They've been summoning actual demons using black magic. Sal discovers that the cult has unleashed a dark, otherworldly force called the Red-Eyed Demon, which has been manipulating events and people in the town. This explains why so many events have been covered up. Sal and Larry make their way back down to the cult hole, is what I'm calling it, to make sure everything is essentially okay, or normal for the apartments. But there's this feeling that Larry just can't shake, like the quiet before a storm. Ash comes back into town and meets up with Sal. They catch up and it's this moment of wholesomeness. Not gonna lie, I really wanted a kiss scene or something, but all we got was a hug. I guess that's okay. I love Ash's character so much because I feel like she would have actually kissed Sal, and it would have been completely normal despite the condition of his body. I digress. After the date with Ash, Sal gets a text from Larry. I think it's evident that Larry became infected by the red-eyed demon in some capacity and didn't want to become further infected, so he offed himself. I came to this conclusion because at some points in the episode, we find these tapes of a woman who we watch become infected by this same demon, and over time, she slowly loses herself along with the other people. She describes everything in detail of the suffering and feeling in a way that's reminiscent of the feeling that Larry was having throughout this episode. He just decided to end it before it became too much. I think this episode was too much for me, because I can get pretty attached to fictional characters. Fast forward to Ash testifying against Sal on his trial. She mentions a version of Sal she's never witnessed until the death of Larry. They got into an argument due to everything going on, and she left him. Ash is remorseful for leaving and wishes she stayed with him. Sal continues the story at the treehouse with Todd, where he gives Sal a modified version of his guitar to be able to manipulate the spirit realm. I really hated playing with his guitar. The coordination can be kind of difficult. After testing out our new guitar mod, the ghost of Mrs. Rosenberg appears and she says, "It seems that the prophecy may have been true after all." Sal is like, "What the freak are you talking about?" She gives us back Larry for a little bit to help Sal break these spells. I guess Rosenberg was like a witch or something. In a desperate bid to stop the cult, Sal uncovers the devastating truth. The apartments themselves are a focal point of the cult's dark rituals, tied to the demon's power. Terrence Addison, the landlord of Addison Apartments, plays a key role in this episode. Terrence is revealed to be deeply aware of the supernatural occurrences tied to Addison Apartments. He knows about the cult's activities and their use of the building as a focal point for their dark rituals. He isn't just a passive observer, but he's actively trying to contain the evil forces within the apartment. This is why he rarely leaves his room, and he remains secluded behind his gas mask, which filters out toxins caused by the supernatural corruption in the building. His commitment to containing the darkness is both heroic and tragic. Despite his effort, the cult's influence grows stronger and the red-eyed demon's power threatens to spread beyond the apartment complex. Oh, this freaking guitar! Okay, I only failed once here, but I remember struggling really hard with this in my other playthroughs. Terrence's inability to stop the events unfolding highlights the overwhelming odds against Sal and his friends. Terrence becomes a symbol of how deep the evil is within Knoxville. Things escalate when Sal realizes the only way to stop the evil from spreading is to destroy destroy the apartments and everyone in them. Yes, that means killing his friends and his family, many of whom are innocent, to save countless others. It's an impossible choice, but Sal makes the ultimate sacrifice. Todd passed out in the treehouse and woke up in the temple. He saw the demon and enough to make anyone go mad. That is why Todd has been put away. Fast forward to the courtroom. Ash finishes up her testimony and out comes Dr. Enon. It literally just dawned on me the last time I played this game that the Dr. Enon here is an imposter. I knew he looked different in the last episodes, but so does everyone at this point, because they're all grown up. I thought I had my time frames mixed up, and I was starting to get a little confused because the last time I checked, he died. He fell out of the treehouse. But I am positive that this guy is most definitely not the Dr. Enon that could have saved Sally's life, given he caught a glimpse of the truth. While reading his dialogue, I noticed that imposter Enon is very definite in what he's saying, almost a little too much. I don't know why I didn't catch this before. Alright, so Ash goes to the treehouse. She snaps a picture of dead Larry. And I'm convinced she's gonna save the freaking day. Let's go! Y'all, I'm in tears the whole scene here, by the way. Hearing that Sally face theme just gets me going! Sal is sentenced to death for his actions. But wait, this is Sally face. So death isn't the end. Ash visits Sal at his grave and meets Todd's boyfriend Neil at their old place to discuss blowing up the cult temple. Also at the house, Maple, Chug's old girlfriend, who's now dead, can be seen caged due to the infection of darkness to keep herself and others safe. Ash finds a package in their shed containing the pyramids of Acid Ma that will resurrect the child of abomination, which is Sal. A significant part of the gameplay involves collecting these hexagons and pyramids, which are crucial to unlocking secrets and progressing the story. These items are scattered across various locations and require solving intricate puzzles to obtain. She makes her way back to the apartment, but Neil and Maple are nowhere to be found, indicating they were taken already by the cultists. Ash is determined to uncover the truth behind the cult and Sal's death. Her journey involves exploring key locations and gathering clues. She's always been a baddie. So, in episode 5, Sal is dead. Yep, starting strong. But death is just a minor inconvenience because he's got bigger fish to fry. Like stopping a cult and saving the world from literal chaos. Being a ghost actually gives him a bit of an upgrade. Now he's got spectral powers and a front row seat to the cosmic chaos unfolding around him. Sal's hanging out in the void. Sal's mission is to battle the cult beyond the grave. And maybe, just maybe, save the world. Casual ghost stuff. Sal's journey is a mix of fighting literal darkness and solving next level puzzles because even in death, the guy just can't catch a break. These puzzles are tied to these mysterious pyramid artifacts that somehow connect him to the Grey Tribe, which is a mysterious group that's been igniting the cult's evil shenanigans for centuries. Honestly, the whole thing, especially at this point, gets really confusing, but not. Like, I get the story, I get it, but there's always something deeper than what's on the surface. And that's what makes me love this game so bad. Here's where it gets intense. Sal's spirit is doing all this heavy lifting because the cult's plan is reaching its horrific finale. The dark is spreading like an unwelcomed house guest, and if Sal doesn't stop it, everyone's doomed. So he teams up with Ash through dreams and visions because apparently ghosts are great at long distance communication, and they start piecing things together. This room is what I call the special room. Here there's a note on the desk. Y'all, this note made me absolutely bonkers. It gives the history of the Grey Tribe, the establishment of Phelps' ministry that was constructed to cover up the original cult temple, the prophecy of the child of abomination, and Terrence Addison. All of it. A lot of what the note says can lead to tons of speculation, which I find beauty in. Next, there's a safe. I think this was one of the only times I didn't need to look up the code to solve these puzzles because it's actually the initiation date that opens the safe. I feel smart. Anyway, Jim, You know, Larry's dad. He leaves a note that apparently needed to be locked away for protection purposes, I assume. The big thing of this episode lies behind this bookshelf and a door with a pretty complex puzzle. You would have needed to collect all the hexagons in this episode to open it. And that, folks, is how Sally really lost his face. In episode 2, we could assume that the dog Sally wanted to pet so badly just ripped his face off, and we wouldn't be too far off in that thinking. But imagine not getting all the hexagons, not being able to solve this puzzle, and never finding this piece of information. Not only was Kenneth Phelps wearing a dog mask, but all the dog stuff from the very few seconds into the game indicate that Sal was injured by the leader of the Devourers of God, the big D-O-G, dog. Oh my god, right? Like, oh my gosh. I just think that's so freaking crazy. I think that's so cool. Like, that gets me going. I couldn't imagine not being able to unlock that piece of information. You can actually progress through the game without opening this door, but holy crap. Devourers of God. The dog. Moving on. What really hits hard is Sal's undying selflessness. Even after everything he's been through, being framed, executed, and trapped in the void, he's still out here saving people. It's a gut punch of heroism and heartbreak. So, episode 5 wraps up with Sal sacrificing everything again, but this time with the help of his friends to try and set things right. Ash is smacking the darkness with her UV arm. Larry is doing some destruction with his necklace thing. Sal has his guitar, and even Travis goes down with his dad. I mean, this is insane. This whole thing sent chills down my spine, made the hairs on my back and my arms stand up. Sal is the ultimate tragic hero. If you're not tearing up a little bit by the end of this, well, are you even human? They seem to have saved Todd. Larry disappears, maybe goes back to the void, I don't know, but technically everyone's dead. This is when I feel more can be speculated about what can possibly happen after this. I also want to highlight one of the things that stood out to me in the Devourers of God note. It mentioned that the darkness could be destroyed by strong enough ultraviolet rays, which is what Ash possessed in her arm after her passing. But it's only when not possessing a host, Ash in this case being the host. I wonder if everything has really been destroyed. And I really wonder what Steve Gabriel has in store for us in Sally Phase 2. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you want more content like this, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. I hope you guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next video.